Hi, I'm Dale Jensen. I'm horrible on camera, but I'm pretty good in the shop. Let me go show you what I just made. This is a piece that was built for a customer. It's all forged by hand, and I keep thinking the air hammer, and I'm not doing it by hand. If you want to see how this piece was built, keep watching. We documented the whole thing. It's kind of a cool video. Okay, this is what we're going to start building. Big stuff, 1.5 inch solid square bar. This is pretty heavy material. It takes a couple of us to carry it. The stuff laying on the floor, I'm sure safety people would have a fit, but we only had 2 or 3 of them to carry. This is my bandsaw. It's old, tired, and completely worn out. It works pretty well, but I don't know. It works. So when you're getting ready to draw and taper stuff, the dimensions are going to change, so you really don't have to be super careful with cutting it to perfect length. You just kind of chop a piece off and start hammering it. Squirt some cutting fluid on it, kind of keeps it cool and keeps it lubricated. Makes the blade last a whole lot longer. And what else am I going to do while I'm sitting there? The saw is set up to have a pump and pump fluid onto the blade so that it keeps it cool and lubricated. And I only had 8 parts to cut, so it really wasn't worth the time to set it up. Just kind of one of those, sit there, squirt some stuff on it, and wait till your part's done. A lot of people don't understand just sitting there waiting for a part to cut. They have to play on their phone, they have to be entertained. Well, it's just one of those, you just sit there and do work. This is a cold cut saw. This is a beast of a machine that will cut anything. It doesn't like the super heavy square material, so that's why I cut the square bar in the bandsaw. This is 3/8 by 3.5 inch bar. It works. This saw cuts really well. This is what it's made for, and it just does work. The blade on it's really expensive, but it can be resharpened over and over and over again, so it's really a good way to get a bunch of parts out of one blade. And it's really accurate. It's hammer time. This is a old glue hammer. This comes out of North Carolina. It's the same hammer that they use on the TV show Forged in Fire. I've had this hammer for over 20 years. So it's done a lot of work, and really, outside of keeping it lubed and everything, there's not a whole lot of maintenance. It's a really good piece of equipment. But it's loud. It shakes the whole building. You can see in the video. I mean, my phone is sitting on a tripod that's like 5 feet away, and it's still shaking the tripod and my phone and everything. It's kind of ridiculous. Our building's 15,000 square feet, and you walk in the front door and you know I'm running the air hammer. It takes a lot of concentration to really focus and keep that in place where you can get work done and not let it be shooting out the side, and keep it on task. Every time you hit the steel, it stretches it. So it stretches it and doesn't come out flat anymore. So you take it over to the roll and run it through the roll and try and flatten it out. So try and roll it back the opposite direction. Sometimes it takes a lot, sometimes it comes out really quick and really easy. This one came out pretty easy. It wasn't that curved to start with. This roll is from pre-World War I, is what I've been told. It's old. I got it from a company here in town that was retiring, going out of business, and it kind of means a lot to me. Got it from Moore Manufacturing. Gary Moore and Steve Moore are good friends of mine, and I really, using this piece of equipment kind of reminds me of them and makes me happy to have it. It was getting sold for scrap, so I'm just really glad it didn't just go to waste. The two sheet metal rolls, the small rolls to my right in the video, are first lighter weight material, and they are old. I know that the company that built those is like PH&L, and they I know they went out of business in 1895, so those pieces are old. They're just hand crank. And sometimes it doesn't matter how much you weigh, it just takes a lot of work. So, take it over, stick it under the iron worker, flatten it out. Get it flat enough to stick in the roll.
All right, let's still moving.
And this is 3/8, so it's a little thick for it. But when you're doing a narrower piece, you can kind of sneak it by sometimes. So it's not good for stuff, but it does it. And this machine's been around this long, I don't think I can break it. I'm adjusting the back roll up to add more tension to try and have the piece come out a little flatter just right off the get-go. Sometimes it comes out pretty flat the first try, sometimes it takes 20 or 50 tries, it doesn't matter. It's just one of those you just keep going until it ends up flat and nice and straight. None of this stuff is safe to work around. So, you got your finger in that thing, it would be a bad day. The dangerous part under my left hand there is all the gears that drive it, and they're in a shield, but the wheel on the right you have to have open so you can control it by hand and adjust it real fine. Now it's time to start some fire. Let's go to work. This is our basically homemade forge. Runs propane. Went through over 150 pounds of propane on this project. It takes about 20 minutes for those parts to get hot enough to start working with. Runs, I don't know, 1800 degrees, so it gets pretty warm. And this is Travis, this is my intern. He's a super good dude, and he wanted to try and forge one of these parts. So I let him. He's learning fast. But he needs to wrap that around there, many layers. That's the yellow, orange, or yellowish blanket is a fire blanket. It's made to stop heat. So it's supposed to be fireproof, but yeah. So these parts are 25 pounds a piece, and because of the heat that sucks up the entire length of it, you can only hold on to about the last 10 inches. So You got a good solid 24 inches just hanging out there that you can't touch. This also isn't really super fair to Travis. This is the first time he's ever ran the air hammer or ever forged anything. So I guess he's forged some little parts, but nothing to this scale at all. So, but it is his first time running the air hammer. So for him to just want to do it and jump in and go for it, pretty cool. He was afraid he was going to screw it up, but I told him he really can't. You're just smashing it. He thought it was pretty cool. It's a pretty intimidating piece of equipment to walk up to the first time.
That's not good.
It doesn't even have to be red. Just that part past the red, closer to the fire blanket. If you touch that, if your skin bumps it, it's immediate 3rd-degree burn. There's no way around it. So if he had reached up without his glove on and grabbed that, it would have been a trip straight to the hospital. If you just scuff the red part, you're immediately burnt. You can't brush that at all. If you hit it, I mean, I've been doing this since 1988, and I mean, I've gotten burnt a lot. And if you just touch that, it feels slick. The water in your skin just vaporizes and just turns into like the steam barrier instantly. And at that point, it's too late. You're burnt. Props to Travis for jumping in.
Yeah. Oh, glove off. Glove off. Shake it off.
The gloves are gauntlet gloves. They're heavily insulated inside. They're heavy leather outside. They're about as
Glove.
they're
There we go.
about as heavy of a glove as you can get.
There
I mean,
you
there
go.
are reflective gloves and heavier gloves out there, but for us to still be able to use our hands and work, this is about as the thickest glove you can physically work in.
Stick back in, grab another one.
Yeah, see how far the heat is back? That thing's been in the forge for a while, maybe a little too long, and the heat kind of sucked up closer to the end of it. He's also got his hands quite a ways apart, so... And you know it's hot when your fire blanket catches on fire. He's getting worn out.
Your hand's gonna catch on fire.
Like I said, in all fairness to Travis, this is hard stuff, and this is not something he's ever done before, so there's a lot of technique and a lot of... You just have to do it enough to know what's going on. And he just wanted to try and jumped in and went to work. This is me. You can see how I'm wrapping that blanket around there. I'm getting 3 or 4 good layers between me and the steel. Then you just pound it. Go to work. It's hard on your hands because it's not just sitting there. I'm having to control where it's going and control every part of it. I'm not just relaxing and letting. You can't just relax and let the hammer do the work. At the end of the day, your hands and arms and forearms are just shot. It's just one of those things. You just go down, sit down, guzzle a bunch of water, come back and do it the next day. That's why I call it work. So yeah, it's just standing there, controlling it. And also it helps, I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds. So my size helps me in this a little bit. And I've been doing it full time since 1988, so I understand how the material moves. This isn't a project that we typically do all day long every day. This is a special project for a good customer we've had for years and years and years. So stuff like this is fun to do. It's not just cut and paste. It's fun stuff to do. It's hard, but it's fun. Going to cut out the top so then get it hammered. Time to break out the plasma torch. Do a little work, get it chopped out so I can get it over to the air hammer and get it hammered and get it detailed. So it's not just a flat piece of plate. The sparks are kind of going all over the place because I'm not that good with the plasma torch. I'd prefer to use a cutting torch, but on thin stuff, the plasma is better. And this is 14 gauge, so it's not super thin. It's just under an 1/8 inch thick. A lot of people run plasma torch without any glasses at all, but I always wear some form of, like, at least a shade 4 lens. This is the biggest piece of sheet metal. The piece that I just cut out, this is it. And it's getting hammered, so that has that texture to it, like everything else does. And this is the biggest piece of sheet metal I've ever hammered. I haven't hammered very much sheet metal at all. It's not fun. And it's loud. Again, you can see the whole video just shaking from that thing hammering. So see how warped it's coming out and it's not flat anymore? Every time you hit that, it stretches that metal in a random direction. So now it's all crooked and warped and screwed up, but it's got to be a flat tabletop, so Back to the roll we go. When you're doing something like this, you have to roll it way past. You can't just roll it through so it comes out flat. You have to roll it way past so that it like gets everything bent the same direction. And then you go back the other direction so everything's bent the other direction. And then you can start worrying about getting it flat. But you got to get all the bends and all the kinks in it all going the same direction. So kind of smooth it out in a curve first, and then you can worry about getting it flat. Those are all the parts finished. It's time to start putting it together. I think they came out really cool. They look cool just sitting on the floor. It took days to get all the parts made and hammered and forged, and now it's time to assemble it. And I can assemble this table in 6 hours, completely assembled. So. But yeah, I'm using a squaring block to get my parts stood up on edge, clamped in place, and start getting stuff tacked up. Largest portion of what we do is MIG welding, so it's kind of cheating, but it's quick, easy, strong, works really well for what we do. We do a lot of TIG welding too, but it's a lot slower and it's a lot more detail oriented, so all my TIG welding is for smaller stuff typically, and different metals. We TIG weld a lot of brass and copper. Now I got the piece of sheet metal that we hammered and textured, got it in there, and we're gonna tack it all in. You don't want to continuously weld a piece like this just because the amount of heat would just warp the crap out of everything. So you want to stitch weld it. So you put a weld, depends on the piece, every 6-8 inches, 5-6 inches. But you don't want to continuously weld it. The heat is just gonna turn that thing into a giant taco. And you stitch weld. And you stitch weld. And you stitch weld. And you stitch weld. And yeah, you stitch weld. We don't do a lot of heavy welding, so that's good, because it's just hours of staring out that little window in your welding helmet. Welding up the corners now, so they look all nice and clean. Structurally, I don't need weld on those outside corners like that. It was welded on the inside. And welding purist, I know I'm welding downhill, which isn't strong, but I'm just trying to weld that gap and clean it up. It's a freaking table. I'm not welding a bridge. I'm grinding and getting everything cleaned up, so it's all detailed out. My work table that I'm working on is 5 foot by 10 foot. solid steel top. It's 3/4 of an inch thick, weighs 1,500 pounds, so it's a really good work surface. Getting the legs prepped so they can be cut down to length and welded to the top that I just finished. So get everything marked up, back in the bandsaw, get them all chopped up. I put the 4 legs on and then stood it up so that it would stand on my table flat. Then I can put the middle legs in, the 4 middle legs in, with them setting on my table. I know my tabletop is a good flat surface to work from. It's a super comfortable position, just sit around and weld, not a big deal. And sometimes you get burnt by sparks. It's not that big a deal. I'm going to use a crane, flip it around, because I'm old and I don't want to lift it. Set it back down and weld 2 more legs on it. When this thing's all said and done, 2 people can move it. It's just not a lot of fun. But why make somebody come help me move it when all I have to do is push a button? You can see me rotating my wrist back and forth. I'm oscillating that arc back and forth. Make sure that arc that the welder is producing is cutting into both pieces so I get a good strong weld in there. We're gonna blue these corners and every place out of ground so that it looks nice. We're just gonna heat it up to where it's just hot enough to blue, not turn red. And then Travis can come back and get it all Scotch-Brighted up and cleaned and ready to clear coat. So he had like 5 hours just in Scotch-Brighting the damn thing and getting it ready to go. The amount of time in a table like this is ridiculous. Off to the paint booth, time to shoot some clear coat. It got a matte clear coat finish. It's an acrylic, so it dries really quick, looks really nice. I like to be really super systematic when I'm painting. I try to be, at least. That way I don't get lost and do parts twice or do parts or not do parts at all. The paint booth is my favorite place. It's loud in there. A lot of air moving, big fan. Just kind of sucks to hang out in there. So it's just kind of a get in, get it done, get out. This is a table that we did for a customer. It's all forged, hammered, flat patina, really cool piece. We're super happy with how it came out. If you like the video, hit the like button, share it with your friends, and if you have any comments at all, drop it in the comments section. If you need something built, drop it in the comments section. Feel free to contact us that way, or there'll probably be a link to our website. Thank you. This is a custom table that we did for a customer. It's all custom table that we did for a customer.
Yep.
This is